Everyone coming in. Hello, owu. Women of Wesleyan. Great. So just a couple quick production notes as we're all kind of coming into the room here. Our session will be recorded today and the chat feature is open. So feel free to do what you've been doing this morning and this afternoon and with adding in your chats. Put your questions in there and we'll try to weave those into our discussion here today. We encourage you to be on video for this session. This is going to be an interactive session. So you've been doing a lot of great listening, active listening, and we're going to ask you to participate in this session. We're going to move into some breakout sessions a little bit into the session. And this was also the one that had homework. So you have your sheet that hopefully you printed off or are looking at on your other screen, and you can use that to take some notes and you'll use that in your breakout session. So now's a good time to grab that. And we will get going. All right. So welcome along with my session colleagues here today, Emma, Rachel, Jenny, and Shelli. We wanted to welcome you to our closing session of Women of Wesleyan. Thank you all for being here. It's such a, last night and today, it's just been particularly hectic and challenging time, at least for me. So I'm grateful that you're all here and you're choosing to be here right now with us. We invite you to join us in creating a brave space where we can be authentic and productive and create some dialogue around these issues that impact us as women and acknowledge that many of these issues may be really top of mind for you right now. So it's exactly why we titled this session, Importance and Power of Language, an examination and discussion of media gendered messages and immense pressures women face in society today. I realize that's a really long title. We have a lot of things to talk about here. This is a big topic. So we asked you to watch the TED Talk, Why Words Matter, with L. Graham Dixon. And we started putting this session together, I think about a year ago. We started getting on first on phone calls and then on Zoom calls. And I hadn't watched the TED Talk for a couple of months. And I watched it again last night and it just continues to resonate. Some of the things Elle said. Language reinforces the status quo. Language leads the witness. We can create change with language. We can rebuild language, use words differently, create new words. So are you hearing this? Language reinforces the status quo. Okay, so close your eyes for a minute. We'll still be here. Stop looking at yourself on Zoom. Enough of this Zoom stuff. Jeez. Close your eyes for a minute. Think of a time when someone said something to you that was a gendered bias comment. You experienced words that were biased, that were gendered. Could have been at work, your personal life, at a coffee shop, at home, on social media. It was probably offensive or inappropriate. It could have been rude or degrading. It could have happened when you were younger, just yesterday, today. Whenever it happened, you remember it. It shaped who you are, it changed you, it might have empowered you, but you remember it. As you're reopening your eyes, I'll tell you what my moment was. So I'm standing there kind of in my mid-20s. I'm working hard. I'm being successful professionally. And I had spent some money on this new green brocade coat. It was beautiful, this coat, and I was feeling good. And I was working on this report. I'm standing at the copier, making copies. I'm getting ready to disseminate this to a lot of the execs of the company I was working for. And a colleague of mine who had kind of higher ranking than me came up to the copier. And he kind of looked me up and down and I'm thinking, oh, he's looking at my new coat. Like, I am looking good today. And he said, it happened to be a man. And he said, are you pregnant? I'm like, I grab my copies. I run into someone else's office who also happened to be male, but who's been one of my deep allies and supporters. And I'm riffing and going off and I'm saying, of all the things he could have said to me, why was it that? Why wasn't it about the report? Why wasn't it about the work that I was doing? But I remember that for sure. And I don't even remember exactly what he said, probably. I'm probably dramatizing what it was, but I remember how I feel. And I'm like getting worked up telling you about it. Most of us know the Maya Angelou quote, people may forget what you said or forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So what we hope to accomplish in this session today is to remind ourselves, to educate ourselves about language and why words matter so much. We have the choice in how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to others, especially young girls. We want you to leave this session with something you will change about your language and consider the power of your words. Words evoke emotion. So we chose this next video to share with you today to evoke emotion, to really evoke memory, to set us up for this discussion we're going to have. As Julie Tuckabis said this morning in one of our opening sessions, I wore my pearls today for you, Jules. She said she's a moment maker. And we hope this session really creates a moment for you. So let's watch the video together.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm gonna just give you some actions to do. And just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
My hair.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
Aw.
My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Is like a girl a good thing?
Actually, I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down, because during that time they're already trying to figure themselves out, and when somebody says you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swing like a girl?
Keep doing it because it's working. If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. It doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl and I swim like a girl and I walk like a girl and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that is not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm going to do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Would you like a chance to redo it?
Yeah.
Why can't run like a girl also mean win the race?
Great. I love that video. So one of the things that we want to do to sort of connect the video you all watched, Why Words Matter, before this session, the Like a Girl video, and our own experiences is to talk a little bit about what the research says. So before we dig into that, I'll just briefly introduce myself and make some space for Emma to introduce herself. My name is Rachel Vinciguerra, and my pronouns are she and her, and I graduated from OWU in 2014. And since then, I've been working with nonprofits in the US and abroad focused on gender equity for women and girls. And so that's the lens that I'm bringing to our conversation today. And I'll turn it over to you, Emma, to introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Hi, folks. My name is Emma Nuiry. I'm the class of 2017, not that long ago. My pronouns are she and they. I currently work as a scholarship programs manager at Point Foundation, which is the nation's largest LGBTQ scholarship foundation. So I'm bringing a bit of a queer lens to this as well, and happy to be here and talk about gendered language. So thanks. And if we could actually share the vocab sheet in the chat as well, that's going to be something that's helpful. If there's any sort of language that we use here that you may be unfamiliar with, take a look at that vocab sheet for some knowledge.
Great. And we can start the slides now. Maybe you can let me know when you're seeing the slides. Is anyone seeing them?
I think we were doing polling questions first, but maybe not.
Oh, okay. We can jump into the polling questions.
Oh, there's your slides.
Great, thank you. So yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about what data tells us about women and girls, and thinking a bit about the unconscious biases that we all have based on the words that we hear used in society. And that connects to both the videos that we watched so far. So before we go into the first half of the presentation, where I'll talk a bit about the harmful societal perceptions that we've internalized and what the research tells us about that, we wanted to take a moment to do a quick poll with all of you. So you'll see the polling questions popping up here in just a moment for you to respond to. Your responses will be anonymous, and then you'll be able to see out how everyone shared. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And then I'll let you know when our time is up here. All right, take about 10 more seconds to finish up your responses. All right, and then if we could share those with everyone. All right, so I'm just gonna jot down, can everyone see the responses? Okay, great. Nicely done. All right, so let's continue on to the next slide here. All right, so our harmful societal perceptions come from lots of different places. In the video by L. Graham Dixon, we see how societal perceptions can come from corporations, they can come from the media, from journalism, and how those entities use language and gender language. And they can also come from adults that are important to us in our lives growing up. So parents, teachers, other caring adults who have also internalize the biases that we're hearing around us in society. So on the next slide, you can see that one of the first places that we start to see these biases is in the classroom. If you could advance to the next slide. Thank you. So research shows that there's no significant difference between boys and girls' brain development in math and science in kindergarten. But despite that fact, teachers perceive that girls with nearly identical math abilities are significantly less able than their male counterparts. So this is this is one of those perceptions that's unfounded, and it's the way that we think about what girls are good at, what like a girl looks like, and what like a boy looks like in educational spaces, even though we know that it's untrue. And from the poll, we saw that about a third of you have had experiences where you were not encouraged in math and science, perhaps as your male counterparts. Moving on to the next slide. Another area where we see these perceptions play out is in school suspension for young girls especially. So the language that you're seeing on the top left hand of that slide with the red text is from research that was conducted in Allegheny County, where Pittsburgh's located. This is where I'm from. And it did research particularly on the experiences of Black girls in Allegheny County and how school suspension impacted them in different ways than it impacted other groups. So you'll see on the right side of the slide, it shows that Black girls are more likely to be suspended from school from simple and sort of arbitrary infractions compared to white girls, and also compared to white boys and Black boys. So these are things like dress code infractions that can be evaluated differently by adults that are in this space. It could be something like talking back to a teacher, which is sort of subjective depending on how somebody's seeing the talking back. And Black girls are more often penalized for these sort of infractions than white girls are. And we know that school suspension and spending time outside of school has really detrimental education outcomes for young people. And part of the reason that this happens is because adults perceive that Black girls need less nurturing, less protection, and less comfort than white girls. And that's the meaning of adultification. And many of you got this correct in the poll. So adults tend to see Black girls as more adult and can handle more than white girls, which is obviously also untrue. This is something that is an unconscious bias that's built into us over time. And then on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you can see it shows the difference between girls with disabilities and girls without disabilities in their suspension rates. So 8.4% of girls with disabilities receive one or more out-of-school suspensions, compared to 2.8% of girls without disabilities. So that's nearly 4 times as frequent for girls with disabilities. So this data just highlights some of those differences that play out in decisions that adults are making based on how they perceive girls with different lived experiences. Next slide, please. And then gendered political language. We've been hearing a lot of this recently. And I think this is something that we maybe are aware of on some level. It was certainly in the first video that we all viewed. But masculine coded adjectives like ambitious and assertive give us the sense that somebody is more qualified for political office than feminine coded adjectives like loyal, compassionate, or collaborative, even though those are all valuable traits for leaders to have. So this bears out in the research that you can see here. And I'm gonna pass it over to Emma to then talk about how all of these impressions from society, what the research shows us society is telling us, impacts the lived experiences of girls and women.
Awesome, thanks, Rachel. So let's do the next poll question. I'll give folks like 30 more seconds. And I checked with the team before, but there's a lot of honking outside my apartment right now, so I apologize if you hear a lot of honking in this feedback. All right, let's show the results of that poll. Okay, Awesome, interesting. So everybody, well, some folks overshot it a bit. It's actually 46%, as we'll see before. So what percentage of girls aged 10 to 18 think certain jobs are better for men? Rachel gave me a perfect intro. She talked a little bit about the societal perceptions of, let's go to the confidence slide too. Sorry, didn't get to that slide yet. So Rachel talked a bit about the societal perceptions of young girls and women, but now we're going to talk a little bit about how that translates into how girls think about themselves and their self-perception. I think I still see the gendered political language. If we could switch to the confidence slide. It's a couple more slides over. Next one. There we go, cool, okay. So yeah, how are women internalizing all these gendered messages that they're getting from the media, that they're getting from their family, their teachers, their friends? We see confidence as a huge issue here. So this data, most of it, is from an organization called ROCKS, which is stands for Ruling Our Experiences. It's a nonprofit actually in Columbus, Ohio. And it's focused on equipping girls with the knowledge and skills that they need to live healthy, independent, productive lives. And most of this data is taken from the Girls Index. And the Girls Index is a survey that ROCKS did in 2017. It surveyed over 10,000 girls in public schools and private schools, schools in rural areas, schools in the cities, from grades 5 to 12. And it actually was a nationwide survey, and it also mirrors the diversity, racial and ethnic diversity of the US Census as well. So it's a pretty huge survey of young girls in high school and in middle school as well. And what they found is that 1 in 3 girls with a grade point average of above 4.0. So that's folks that are taking, APs or an IB, they're getting, A's, A pluses, they're getting above a 4.0, and they don't think that they're smart enough for their dream careers. And just like the poll that we just took, 46% of those high school girls do not believe that they're smart enough for their dream careers. In addition to that, we see how this confidence also can trickle into and continue on even when these young girls become young women. And we see that women feel that they need to meet 100% of the criteria for a job, whereas men apply and they only feel like they need to meet 60% of the criteria. And we saw that in the gendered linguistics video, right? With the gendered coded language, or language coding, that's sort of, I think as Elle said, is leading the witness, right? To who maybe that job is supposed to be for. We also see examples of this again in the Like a Girl video, where you see young girls are seeing like a girl as an insult versus as something, an insult or less than versus something that is, just as cool as boys, or it's something that they are learning as an insult over time. It's not necessarily something that they believe already. Another data point that I wanted to point out that was also in the Girls Index is ROCKS asked girls what quality they need to be successful, and their number one response was confidence. So confidence is playing into, they're seeing it even as a young age, how important to build up young girls' confidence as they move through the world and into their lives, even past high school. And then if we could move on to the next slide, please. Awesome. And we also see how this impacts, along with their confidence, their mental health and their body image. So this language that we use can have real consequences. We aren't saying that, gendered language is necessarily all to blame for poor self-confidence, or as we're seeing on the slide, sort of poor mental health or body image, but we are certainly saying that it's a factor, and it's a factor that can be changed. So the graph that I really like on this screen is to the left right here. You can see on the top in the pink, students or young girls in 5th grade are 86% likely to say that I'm a confident person. But as they continue and go into 12th grade, that goes all the way down to 62%. So their confidence gets lower as they get older. In addition to that, you see is right there in the black, and 20% of 5th graders say I would like to change my appearance, and that gets even higher to 60% once they get to 12th grade. So they're sort of mirroring each other there. They're caring more about their appearance, and their confidence is going down. In addition to that, we see 1 in 3 high school girls are sad or depressed 4 or more days per week. So as I said before, there's real consequences to the way that girls perceive themselves and how they feel about themselves on a day-to-day basis. Something that I do want to point out too that is important when we're thinking about all this data is that this session is sort of just a beginning. It's a place to start and an introduction into a way of thinking. This isn't an exhaustive presentation. I think as Amy said at the top of this is a conversation that could go on for a very long time, but we're just trying to give you a little snapshot so that maybe you can tune your antenna a bit into these gendered how gender language can impact our lives, and particularly young girls in our lives or yourself. And in addition to that, I also want to highlight unconscious bias and give that some light and some time to discuss that, because it's something that was discussed in the gender linguistics video. It's also something that Rachel discussed. And I'm going to read out the definition to you too, because I think it's important to talk about it. So it's often defined as prejudice or unsupported judgments in favor of or against one thing, a person, a group compared to another. I always like to think of it as sort of a cognitive shortcut that your brain can make, sometimes unconscious, sometimes not. That's jumping to a conclusion about a person of a group. This often occurs as a stereotype, right? But it can be in favor of something as well as not in favor of something. And something else that I always like to touch on when we're talking about cognitive bias and unconscious bias is that it's universal and often unintentional. Perhaps you were watching the Like a Girl video and realized that you use like a girl maybe as an insult. Or perhaps, you know, you're reflecting on your own experiences too of how it has been used as an insult to you. None of us is completely objective at all times. Part of this session, and I think as you move through the world, it's important to think about how we can call out those biases so that we can change them and be better able to stop them or mitigate them as they happen. I want to end this conversation by reiterating what L. Graham Dixon said in the video, as well as what Amy pointed out as well. It's that we can all rebuild language to describe rather than to label, and use language to explore. I love use language to explore. I think that's great. And then second, we can all use words differently, right? So we can recode words in our brains before we recode them in our lives. Language is powerful, and we can all be in control of the language that we use into whatever spaces that we're going into, particularly like a girl. We can use that as a positive versus a negative. And then we can all create new words like mansplain. So I'm going to leave you with that as we move into our breakouts. And I think I will toss it over to Jenny and Shelli.
All right. So we wanted to make sure that we got a chance for some small group discussion here. So we're going to move into breakouts. It will happen automatically. You'll be randomly assigned. So you don't need to do anything except for click join breakout session. And in the breakout session, we will talk through some of what we've learned and we've been discussing. So you'll have a moderator there who will kind of guide a conversation, but it's an opportunity for us all to connect and talk through what we've been discussing all week. And Shelli, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, and so our main goal is to create a statement of change. So based on everything that we've learned today and talked about today, having something where all of us are moving forward together, and then we'll create a short-term goal and a long-term goal in the breakout sessions as well.
Welcome back, everyone. So I think Shelli and Jenny, you were going to facilitate our next piece.
Yeah, so we wanted to take some time to hear what you guys all talked about in your breakout sessions. So we'd love if one person from each session would just give us a quick readout on kind of what you guys talked about and what your change statements look like. Erica, since you're first on my screen, do you want to go first?
Yes, and I apologize to my group. I brought us back. We did not get to change statement. Classic Erica talking more than we needed to. I think we talked a lot about sort of different things that we can do, though, in terms of pronouns, in terms of not using what I would say gender norms in terms of families or in terms of home life. So being a bit more open and receptive to all different scenarios. Group, if you feel like you would like to add anything, or Carrie, if there was anything else on our notes, please do. I am so sorry.
That's the hardest part of Zoom breakouts, when you get yanked back.
I know.
We did focus a lot on continuing the dialogue and just kind of continue the progress. If someone misgenders or sorry, my dog is barking. So we talked about that, just continuing the dialogue, especially if there are people present that have different perspectives, just to keep pushing progress.
Awesome. Thank you for your readout. Rachel, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can speak for our group. This is Kelsey here. Rachel and I co-facilitated our breakout session. Rachel's going to paste our change statement in the chat, and I would invite anyone in our group to read it out loud for all of us. Maybe Megan or Pat or Jada. Would you like to read what Rachel's shared in the chat?
I vote for Pat. She is by far my new girl crush. So Pat, would you mind?
I think you're on mute, Pat.
I think I unmuted myself. Everybody hear me? Are you there? Okay, great. Can somebody post our dialogue so I could read it?
It's on the chat.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Oh,
You see it on the side there.
Bear with me. Let's see, it's Rachel's post, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just scrolled right by it. Okay. Here it is. We will continue having these conversations. We will learn to read from our mistakes. We will be kinder to ourselves and move that kindness forward. We will lead by example with the language we use about ourselves and others. We will push ourselves outside of our comfort zones to engage and connect. When you stop learning, you stop living.
I love that. I think that's a great mantra.
That could be our change statement too, please. Thank you.
That's awesome. I love it. Emma, do you or someone from your group want to talk about what you guys discussed?
Absolutely. I think Pat is going to share it in the chat. But we have listening first and avoid preconceived notions or expectations. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Not trying to escape that discomfort. We'll move towards more confidence. We are going to be creating short and long-term goals for improvement. Remember that self-care is important, and to celebrate joy where you can find it and pass it on.
I love that. You guys are giving us our to-dos from here. Anne, I think your group's next. Do you want to?
Yes, and I was probably talking way too much, but I asked Mandy if she could share it in the chat and also just pipe in right now, because she wrote. I did not take notes.
Absolutely. We had a great session. So thank you, ladies. A lot of great discussion. So we thought about the change statement in two aspects, one short term, one long term. So the short term was to use a mental stop button when we're assuming gender identity. So, before we make an assumption, let's, hit that stop button in our head before making that assumption. Short term, start using the word they, not be restricted to he or she, and having the feeling that it's okay to ask someone what their preferred pronouns are. I mean, I think that's something that we need to start using in the short term. Long term, one of the group members said treating her grandchildren in the same way, regardless of sex. And I think that can just go broadly to treating everyone the same, regardless of their identity. Long-term, help others learn the power of language, that words do matter, and help others just become aware of that. And then just for ourselves, long-term is educate ourselves, and we don't know what we don't know. So, just become aware of those things that are going on around us.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks.
Amy, you want to tell us about your group next?
Our OWU freshman Rachel is going to do it for our group.
Fantastic.
Hello. So we said advocate with your voice for yourself, for when you need to say help me to understand, for when you need to say I want to be an ally.
I love it. Shelli, do you want to talk about your group?
I am going to send it over to McKenna, who will be able to share kind of the statement that we wrote down.
Yeah, thanks, Shelli. We had a really good discussion, and in a similar fashion, did not get to fully complete our thoughts, but we did have a few different pieces that I can just highlight here. Sorry, I'm pulling it up. Have deep respect and appreciation for people who have faced challenges, breaking glass ceilings, or people who have chosen parenthood. And then speak up for yourself and others when you witness bias, attend to pronouns, and recognize that gender is not binary, so that when we use language, we use it to describe, not label. It's sort of a summary of a lot of the different notes we have.
I love it. And I will summarize my groups, I guess, as the last one. We did not have a cohesive, fully written thought like you guys did, but I love it so much. So our group talked about education and continuous learning and changing who you learn from, balancing life. So listening to your body and talking from your values and beliefs, being conscious of the messages you send, being brave about speaking up about gender and other biases, and then thinking through an intentional path. And from here, Katie, I'm not sure who is next in the lineup.
You're going to throw it back to Amy Prosenjak, who is going to wrap up this session.
Thanks, Jenny and Shelli. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Are you writing down all these wows from last night and today? I mean, this is so inspiring. My much younger Delta Zeta sister, Sarah Ressler, she keeps texting me her wows. She's taking good notes. So thank you for keeping me inspired. So hopefully what you're coming out of today is with some personal statement of change. What do you commit to? I was leafing through Maggie's book last night, our Keep Moving, and on page 45, her quote is, or her poem, her mantra, do not ignore what hurts. Even as you feel yourself beginning to heal, the wound may be with you. I'm going to remember that guy at the copier. Like a phantom limb. That ghost is a teacher. Learn from it all you can. Keep moving. What do you commit to? If you want to put it in other Delta Zeta sister, what other wows do you have? What other commitments do you want to make today, either publicly or privately? One of the things I'm going to commit to that I'll tell you about is that I'm going to commit that I'm not going to be the only woman on a panel that I agree to participate in. I'm going to wait till I'm the second, or I'm going to wait till they can use my name. If you find a second, call me back, and then I'll be on your panel. So that's something I'm going to commit to. Any other commitments? I'm seeing hearts. I'm seeing thumbs up and clapping. This is exciting. Learning and listening. Thanks to all of my colleagues today with Emma, Rachel, Jenny, Shelli. It was a great experience for me to learn from all of you. It was interesting to be the old gal in our group. So thanks for reminding me how to think young. Thanks especially to Katie Webster. She's She's amazing. I hope you have a big glass of wine waiting for you at the end of this too, this afternoon. And
A to Z.
we really appreciate all of you being here. And as Diane has noted, we have some upcoming WOW speaker series to look forward to. So stay tuned for those details. So I'm going to pass it back over to Diane. Diane, you've been personally vulnerable today. Your professional leadership is just stellar. So thank you. And over to Diane.
Oops, I'll unmute now. Thanks an awful lot. This program has the right name, don't you agree? All I can say is, wow. And I think everyone else has been saying that as well. This has been a remarkable gathering. I really miss being able to connect with you in person. I'm so pleased to see that there's been a great outpouring of support and participation. And it was a virtual success. You didn't have to travel beyond your home. You could watch wearing pajama bottoms, I guess, if you wanted to. I love our community of women that have an OWU education and a spirit in common. There are some things that I have to remind you of. We have a WOW speaker series that's going to launch on January 28th. That first session is going to be a follow-up of this concluding session. And it's going to involve our provost, Carlin Crowley, who will be one of the leaders of that session. So we're really looking forward to that. It's going to be every other month, so that's the odd numbered months. And this is an effort to keep the relevant topics that we shared this weekend alive and going. And we're also going to introduce new topics of interest to the Women of Wesleyan. I'm excited to remind you about the Mentor-Mentee program that we are launching through WOW. Networking and relationship building are topics covered during this event, and they're so important to the OWU community. Perhaps you want to be a professional mentor or a personal mentor. Perhaps you need one. So either way, please participate. And we'll be launching the WOW Professional Networking Group on LinkedIn, as well as a WOW Facebook group, so that Women of Wesleyan can definitely stay connected over the next year. You'll be receiving post-event communications probably at the beginning of this week. We want you to be sure to fill out the evaluation forms. And if you have any ideas of topics that you would like to see covered in the speaker series, please share those with us. We'd love to have that input from you. We're grateful to those of you serving in leadership and service roles for Ohio Wesleyan. Thanks to all of you who attended and are staying connected to Ohio Wesleyan University. Wesleyan is just near and dear to my heart. So I love the fact that you're all participating in this event. Maggie Smith reminds us to be generous in some way today, to give of our hearts and to give of our time. And you've certainly done that. Many of you also support Ohio Wesleyan through gifts in support of the university. I too chose to support OWU, and I hope you'll join me this year in support of the annual fund, which really helps to keep the university going. I want to thank Katie Webster, our heroine. I've got to watch my word choice, and the committee members and all those of you who participated in leading a session and participating in a session. Thanks so very much. In one of the sessions, we chose a single word that we wanted to share, and there are many words that come to my mind now: stimulating, inspiring, informative, dynamic, diverse. You can write in some words of your very own. I'd like to close with some quotes from Keep Moving. Connected. There we go. That's a great one. Love it. Supportive. Another good one. Intergenerational. Very good. Powerful. Grateful. Think. Inclusive. Challenging. Excellent. So to conclude, I'm going to read some quotes from Keep Moving by Maggie Smith. And I'd like to express my gratitude to Maggie for being our keynote speaker and sharing her wisdom with us last night. A recurring topic for this event has been self-work and self-acceptance. Accept that you are a work in progress, both a revision and a draft. You are better and more complete than earlier versions of yourself. But you also have to do, I'm sorry, I copied this instead of reading it. Be open to change, allow yourself to be revised. The second is, all you need to do today is live the best you can. Even if in this different time, your best doesn't feel like enough, it is enough. And trust that your best tomorrow will be even better than today's. That is healing. And the final one is prepare to be uncomfortable in service of transformation. If you want to thrive in a new life, you're going to have to change too. It may feel like you're breathing different air, but trust that you can adapt. Press on. Keep moving. I'll be seeing you virtually very soon. Thank you.